We're going to show you the basic programming for a Galt G300 series drive. This particular drive is rated 480 volts and 75 amperes. We already have this wired up, so the first thing we're going to do is energize. So when you first energize the drive, it will come up with 8s all across, and then it will show you the current set frequency that the drive is programmed to run. Now, if you want to run this drive, all you need to do is press run. It's quite as simple as that. You can hear the fans come on. Now, it's very important that the fans be operational. If any time the fans fail, you need to make sure and replace those, and they're very easy drop-in replacements. So you can see that we're accelerating here, and if you would like to change the speed, you simply turn the speed adjustment knob here, and you can see that it's adjusting our preset operating speed. We have that set now for 40 something, and so it's going to come up to 40.69 hertz, and it will stay there. If we want to change that, we can drop that, and the drive will act accordingly. The faster you turn this, the faster the speed changes. Now, if you want to stop the drive, you simply push the stop button, and the drive will ramp down at the pre-programmed deceleration rate. Now, the next thing we're going to do is show you how to program the Galt drive. The programming parameters are arranged in parameter groups, and then parameters within each of those groups. So in order to program the drive, we're going to press the program button. We see P00. This is parameter group 0. Now, if I push enter, it tells me that I'm in parameter group 0, parameter 3. I'm going to go down, first of all, to parameter 0. And then I will press enter again, and it shows me that parameter 0 is set for 2. If you set this for 0 or 1, that is open loop flux vector. That is a very high performance mode, but it requires that you tune the drive to the motor. And that will give you better performance, but the problem is if someone comes along and changes the motor, then it may not operate stably because they won't realize that they need to tune the drive to the motor. So we recommend you set this in 2, which is straight PWM control. It'll work pretty much on any motor, and only use the flux vector modes if you need very, very precise voltage or speed or torque performance. So I'm going to set this for 2. I will push enter, and then it automatically goes up to parameter group 0, parameter 1. Now, this is your run command. If you set this to 0, it takes its commands from the keypad. 1, it takes its command from the terminal. In other words, you close terminal and it starts, you open the terminal, it stops. And your speed command will either come from the terminals or the unit, from a speed pot or from our keypad. So again, 0 keypad, 1 from external terminals, or 2 from communications. Sorry, you can cut that out, right? Okay, so we're going to now go up to parameter. Oh. I come up now? Okay. So we're going to go to parameter 3. Parameter 3 is your maximum frequency. It is also the base frequency for the drive, and you can see that's 50.43. I want to set this for 60 hertz here in North America. So that digit that is 3, I'm going to increase to 0. Then I'm going to push the shift key. It goes over to this digit. Let me push the shift key again, and there's 5. I'm going to increase that to 6. Push the shift key again. I'm going to leave that at 0. Shift key again, and I'm going to increase that to 0. Now let me go back here and change that to 0. So now our base frequency is 60 hertz. I push enter, and it will set that. We now go to parameter 4. Parameter 4 is the upper limit frequency that you want to run the drive. So I push that, and it turns out that that is also 50 hertz. So we will shift over here to the 5, increase that to 60 hertz, and then enter. Next, we're at parameter 5. That's your lower limit. So you want to make sure and not run too slow. Right now it's set for 0. If you have a typical fan or a load that it doesn't matter so much, I would recommend that you set this for about 12 Hertz. It's a good idea not to go below 12 Hertz unless the motor manufacturer says that that's okay. So I'm going to shift over here, change that to 1, shift to this, and there we are at 12 Hertz. If you have a pump and you're worried about deadheading or some other load where that frequency is critical, you want to make sure and set this so that it will never run lower than that particular speed. Next we go to parameter 6, which is your frequency command for frequency A, and this can be set for your keypad or analog input 1 or analog input 2. You can also use voltage or current. And if you use the voltage, it's already set up for that. If you want to use current, like a 4 to 20 milliamp signal, you'll simply have to change the jumper from voltage to current for that particular analog input. Next, let's go up to parameter 9. And parameter 9 tells you whether you want to use speed command A or speed command B. You can select that. Then we're going to go up to parameter 11. This is one you're going to definitely want to look at. That's your acceleration time. And you can see the acceleration time is set for 40 seconds. So for our demo, we want to reduce that a bit. Let's set that acceleration time maybe down to about 10 seconds, and then we'll push and enter that data. We're now at parameter 12. This is your deceleration time. Now you want to make sure that you don't decelerate faster than the load can coast to a stop under normal circumstances. If you try to decelerate too fast, the motor will begin to regenerate into the drive or overhaul, and that will push power back into the drive. It will increase the voltage on the DC bus, and it will give you an overvoltage trip. So in this case, it doesn't matter. We're going to go over here and make that about 10 seconds as well. And we'll enter that. Now, parameter 13 is your running direction. So your running direction can be set to run either in either direction, or only in forward, or only in reverse. And you can lock out reverse. So if you have a load where it might damage or cause problems if it ever runs in reverse, you can set that to lock it out and not let it run in reverse. Next comes our parameter 14, which is our carrier frequency. And 14 right now is set for 4 kilohertz. We generally recommend you set this between 2 and 4 kilohertz, but the higher it is, the hotter the drive runs, and therefore, especially on 75 horsepower motors and above, we'd like you to keep this more down around 2. So in my case, I'm going to shift over here and make that 2 kilohertz. I'll push enter, and now it changes that. And the last one in parameter group 0 is parameter 17 that we recommend you look at. So there's parameter 17, and parameter 17 asks whether you have a constant torque load or a variable torque load. If you have this set for 0, that's constant torque, and it will run conveyors, elevators, things that require high torque when they first start. If, on the other hand, you have a fan or a pump that requires low torque to start, you can change this to a variable torque load, and when you do that, you'll save a little bit more energy, the drive will run a little smoother, the motor will make a little less noise. And so in our case, let's go ahead and change that to a 1 and enter that. Now the next thing we want to look at is parameter group 1. So I'm going to hit my program to go back to my parameter groups. I'm going to go up to parameter group 1, then parameter group 2. Now parameter group 2 is your motor data. We hit enter, and this gives us parameter 0. Parameter 0 is your motor type, and you want that to be synchronous or asynchronous. Always put in asynchronous, and asynchronous is 0. So an asynchronous motor is an induction motor. You will only use synchronous if you have a special permanent magnet motor. Then we go up to parameter 1 is your kilowatts. Your kilowatt rating of the motor is 3/4 of the motor horsepower. So if you have a 10 horsepower motor, the kilowatt rating is 7.5 kilowatts. If you have a 100 horsepower motor, it would be 75 kilowatts. If you have a 50 horsepower motor, it would be 37.5. Parameter 2 is your rated frequency, parameter 3 is your rated speed, parameter 4 is your rated voltage, and parameter 5 is your rated current. Let's just take a look at them. This all comes off the motor nameplate. So you can see that the default here is 75 amps. If my motor current were only rated 69 amps, I would shift this over here, change that to a 6, shift again, make that a 9, and then enter. Now my motor rated current is 69 amps, and this will protect the motor from overload. Be very careful to set all these parameters the same as what is on the motor nameplate. Now we're getting close to the finish. We go back to program and go up to program group 4. Program group 4, there's only one variable there that we typically set, and that is parameter 0, excuse me. So there we are in parameter 0. We go into that and we can set that to 0, 2, 3, or 4. 0 is a constant torque mode. 2, 3, and 4 will give you various modes. We suggest that if it's a constant torque, conveyor, elevator, something like that, leave that at a 0. Otherwise, set this for either 3 or 4. So we will go ahead and enter that there. And then the final one that we need to look at is parameter group 5. So we will go to parameter group 5, hit enter, parameter 1, enter, and this tells you whether your S1 terminal tells the motor to go forward or reverse, or whether you want 3-wire control. So if you're starting and stopping this from a switch, then you're going to want to set this to 1 so that closing S1 to common will start the drive in the forward direction. If you set it to 2, it will start in the reverse direction. And that's pretty much it. There are lots of parameters. This can get very sophisticated, but those are the basics, and in most cases, those are the only parameters that you will need to successfully program this drive, and you should receive years of excellent performance if you just get these parameters programmed correctly. Okay, so when you're done, then simply push the program button until you get back to your speed command, and then you can simply start the drive